So yeah, welcome everyone to the town hall in this lovely Thursday. As we are, I don't know, coming to the end of the month, coming to December and the holiday season. It's just crazy. I just realized how time goes by so fast. Well, for today, we are going to give a little introduction on what is deep funding. I'll ask Jan and maybe Rafael to tell us a little bit how it was in Bangkok and how was the experience. I think we are all a little bit curious. I am, as I couldn't be there. And just have some little discussion about just some ideas for the future of deep funding. And I think we'll do a little bit of a presentation that he has done also in the conference. And it's still everything very early, but I think it's nice in this principle of decentralization for all of us to be able to chip in into the discussion and share some thoughts. Well, about deep funding, maybe for those of you watching for the first time, or maybe you don't remember, let me just give a little explanation of what it is. We are a decentralized grants program tasked to fund, projects and initiatives that are beneficial to SingularityNET and that follow this goal, this incredibly ambitious objective we have of creating a democratic, decentralized, and beneficial AGI. And in terms of the principles, the values we hold dear to us, we have openness, creativity, collaboration, kindness. I think crucial principles for us to interact as human beings and collaborate towards a better world. Deep funding is a community-run program, Okay. Basically, you as a community member or anyone participating there on the other side have a huge impact. It runs thanks to you. You're the one that makes proposals to reach this ambitious goal. You're the one voting as well for the best proposals, the one reviewing and helping proposals improve on what is not perfect yet and what could be better. But you're also part of it by being part of discussions such as the one we are having today about the future of deep funding in this call, in this town hall. And even with circles, right? Circles are made of community members. They execute crucial functions inside deep funding, and they are basically helping a lot running this program. So you too can join the community and start collaborating, start helping this fund run. As for this town hall, this is a place for you, for the deep funding community. We come here to discuss everything related to deep funding, perfect place to learn, ask questions. So feel free to raise your hand, feel free to unmute and engage in conversation. I think that makes it better for all of us and funnier than always listening to my voice, especially because it's a bit bad today. And finally, of course, we want to hear from you. So if you have any project to present, if you have any milestone you reach, anything you want to share related to funding, SingularityNET, AI, please come. You can host a breakout room. You can present here. Would love to hear from you. So don't be shy. Please put yourself out there. And now, I guess, Jan, can I put you on the spot? And before doing any presentation, can I just ask you a little bit about how was the conference and what did you felt going there?
Yeah, sure. So we had 2 days. I'm on sound. Yeah, right. We had 2 days of semi-internal meetings with leadership of SingularityNET and ecosystem, and maybe a few other people joining. Then we had 1 day of public SingularityNET event, and then we had an ASI event. So it was quite a lot. There were a few community members there, which was great. So we had NerdConf, Thomas and Ale there. That was really nice. And Joanna was there, and Ubio was there. So it was really good to connect with those people, but also to have them connect with our SingularityNET people, etc. So that in itself was already very useful, I would say. In the first day, so the presentation that I will show you later is the one that I gave internally. And it was in a slot that was dedicated to decentralization. So in the presentation, I'm not focusing too much on funding rounds and that kind of stuff, but I'm looking at deep funding from the perspective of decentralization. But I think I can promise you there are some pretty interesting outcomes there. So stay tuned. As for the presentations, if I would have to pick two things that I already knew beforehand, but still I think are most interesting, it would be the launch of what we now call ASI Create, which is a kind of layer on top of our platform, if you will. Also, you could see it as an extension of Fetch agent network, depending from which angle you're looking at it. Which we will be creating over the coming months and will leverage making agents and connecting knowledge graphs with LLMs, etc., and making agents based on that with spaces for builders where they can feature the things that they created, some crowdfunding options, and much more. I won't go too deep into that, but it is relevant because this is the reason why we delayed or postponed Deep Funding Round 5 a little bit, because we want to make sure that anybody who proposes in a new round is fully aware of this new ASI Create platform. So that was presented. I expect that in the coming weeks, months, maybe we will hear more about that and maybe also get a little bit more detailed information on that, which means that our Deep Funding Round 5 will probably be going towards January. So yeah, that's the ASI Create is very good news. Maybe postponing Deep Funding Round 5 is a little bit less good news, but it's all for a very good and positive reason. The other big thing I would say is the creation of MetaCycle. So it's an AI dedicated blockchain. It's you could say in a way a fork of Hypercycle, which is moving in a little bit different direction than we originally anticipated. So with MetaCycle, you could say we're taking back control and we're adding some other nice technical things that we already have in our back pocket. And that is something that I'm personally very, very enthusiastic about. So I think that's a great thing. But also there, I won't go too much into detail. I'm sure plenty of information will come out over the next days and weeks. And there are people who can tell that much better than I can. Then, yeah, on the third day, which was the Ecosystem Festival, I just gave a 5 minutes update on deep funding. We had a list, a lineup of a lot of projects that gave 5 minutes updates, and not even all the projects. There were projects who wanted to give an update, but there still wasn't time. So that shows how large our ecosystem is becoming. Yeah, and then we had all kinds of interesting meetings. I was on another panel on decentralization. I think Rafael did a panel on deep funding and best practices in deep funding round together with NerdConf. They did that very nicely. All that stuff was being recorded on video, so I'm not exactly sure what will be done with it, but I'm pretty sure we'll see some videos coming out. Yeah, again in the coming weeks or months. And then the ASI Connect, I went to the first two generic talks. And the first one was from Trent from Ocean, and he talked a lot about the future of AI and how AI and humans would merge together with all kinds of implants and related system. He did that in a very fast pace, and I must say I was impressed. I was impressed by that presentation, and as anybody in the room, also a little bit scared by what he was telling, I think. So we'll see how that will go. But it was really good to watch. And then Men made the other keynote speech, but that was more on the organizational structure of ASI and where we're going. So I think that more or less Yeah, in the afternoon there were sessions from each separate party, and I was a little bit tried to be present in our own SingularityNET room. And yeah, as it goes with days like that, for me personally, often the most interesting thing is everything that happens in between those presentation sessions, where I meet a lot of people and people ask questions, and I get to meet some people and have some conversations that I usually wouldn't have. So all in all, for me, it was very successful. I think there were some very interesting days. We had some very cool news to tell, and we will continue to build upon that. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I have a question. So now we have I'm gonna say the name wrong. The ASI or AGI Create. Will that be the focus on the next round, or what is the idea for the community needs to be right to understand it better how it works, right? Before we have the round. Is that gonna be the
Yeah,
focus
we,
of the
we
next
haven't
round?
we haven't figured that completely out. What I will expect is that we will still have a general round like we planned originally, which might also build upon ASI Create. There's nothing wrong with that. But we might also have a dedicated pool for ASI Create, for instance, to build agents on ASI Create. That might be something. And we might also have one, possibly more, but at least one RFP related to ASI Create, which might or might not be released at the same time of the round, because there's no inherent relation there, of course. But yeah, so I expect something. So the idea is that we would have indeed some kind of pool that would leverage the opportunities that ASI Create will bring. And for the other pool also to give people sufficient input so they know what they're building for. But I want to be very clear here, that ASI Create is something that we add to what we already have. So Deep Funding platform is actually also developing very good. I saw a video of onboarding an AI service, which used to take quite a lot of time, maybe an hour in recent things, which now would be a couple of minutes. Not quite sure how many minutes, but I think we'll have a video out soon on that as well. So yeah, also that opens a lot of opportunities. So what I hope to be seeing on the platform thing related to our classic platform, I should say, maybe, is we will finally be ready to have more large-scale hackathons that might also include the creation of AI services on our platform. So that opens a lot of opportunities, Andrea. And oh yeah, another thing is that I also talked with the platform team about the opportunity of having more RFPs on Deep Funding related to outsourcing work, development work of the platform. So I think that's also a very good thing. That way we can decentralize also the development of the platform further and use the RFP section of Deep Funding. I think in general, all the things I hear from the RFP thing, to be honest, we have 20 proposals or so out there. That's not quite what I hoped for. We are working on a lot of PR activity. So I hope over the coming weeks we'll see quite a surge there of new and more and hopefully high quality proposals. In the end, the quality is more important than the quantity, but still. But I think the RFP option really will give a lot of possibilities to expand Deep Funding and also have more partner RFPs, or maybe even RFPs by third parties that bring their own treasury. So yes, as Deep Funding is concerned, I think everybody is very positive about it. Everybody likes it, and I think we can do great stuff here. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that in my presentation.
All right, all right. Any questions? Anyone? I guess not. At least we have some silent. Maybe I can ask a question that's a bit unrelated, Jan, but related to deep funding. Do you have a timeline for the conversion of AGX into FAT or into ASI, or not yet for deep funding itself? I guess not
That's
for
a
us.
very good question. So I ask this question myself with some regularity, and the truth is I don't have a timeline, but yeah, I also don't see any strong reasons not just to do it. I think the main reason why we're not doing it is might be just time and resources to do it. Some people have to put their attention to it and make sure that everything is done right. And those people have a lot of other things on their mind. At least that's my impression. Maybe there are other reasons that I don't know of. Um, and indeed, so we have in SingularityNET these 8 wallets, and one for the foundation, one for deep funding, and 6 other wallets. The idea is that we will convert all those wallets to FAT, and once that is done, we'll also have all the operations on FAT, unless we suddenly go to ASI, which is also still an option, I think, but I've no idea what the timeline for that is. So yeah, I have to wait. Good thing is that Roho showed me earlier today his backend automations and showed me a column for the tokens, so we could very easily also in our backend operations exchange one token for the next without incurring a lot of issues, I think. There
All right.
are other things there, so also on the back end, also on the automation part, that might improve our payouts and things. But yeah, I think we should maybe park that for another time and focus a little bit on the subject at hand.
All right. Thank you. Ayo has his hand up. Ayo, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Jan. So I was thinking, I was not sure if I should ask now or ask later because I mean there's still going to be a presentation. But there's this announcement on Discord regarding a $40,000 dollars grant for let me see, yeah, in a collaboration with Project Catalyst for Cardano-based multi-party escrow, on-chain payment, and all of that. So I just wanted to know, to ask if that has anything to do with the ASI Create, or if there's a way that it links and how all of this plays out together for the
It's a
community.
fine question. It's a fine question. It has nothing to do with ASI Create. It has everything to do with our platform. And it has everything to do with our new RFP process. So this is one RFP that I'm particularly proud of because it's not only one of our first RFPs, but it's also our first collaborative project that we're in this case doing with Cardano Catalyst. So Cardano Catalyst is pledging half of the funds of that RFP. And the aim is to create a multi-party escrow on Cardano, which is the main ingredient of porting our AI platform also to Cardano. So yeah, I think that's a milestone in multiple reasons. Finally, some concrete work on migrating our AI platform from Ethereum to Cardano, making it multi-platform. We have a cool RFP, and it's a collaborative, a partner RFP. So yeah, I hope that we will see more partner RFPs together with Cardano. There are a number of other things that we might collaborate in. But I also hope we'll see similar RFPs coming along with partner projects with other blockchains or projects or whatever, which will extend the reach and the potential of deep funding even more.
Cool, Cool. Thank you, Ian.
My pleasure, Ayo.
All right. So if nobody has more questions, I guess, Jan, you can start with the presentation.
So this will be one of these good old sessions where I do all the talking, right?
Just for you not to lose the practice from the event.
How much time do you want me to do this? I think in what I saw in the agenda, the meetings the town halls are now only supposed to be an hour. Is that correct? Or I
For
mean,
me, it shows
they scheduled for 1.5 hours, and the actual time would always be 2 hours. So maybe
yeah,
so what is the current schedule?
it should be still 1 hour and a half, at least for me in my calendar.
Yeah, it's 1.5 hours on the calendar.
Okay, maybe I looked at it on the community website, IO. So maybe before it actually started. So maybe that you might have want to look there. In that case, I will not rush through it, but take a little bit of time. But I hope we'll also have some time left at the end for some questions and input and feedback. Nevertheless, if you want, you can always interrupt me also during the call. So the presentation that I will show you is about the topic decentralization. It was directed at our ecosystem. Not all of these people in our SingularityNET ecosystem, the leadership, have an in-depth knowledge of what deep funding is doing. So maybe a few slides here are already the topics on those slides are very well known to you, but I'll go through it rather quickly. I think when I did it last time in Bangkok, it probably took me 20 minutes or so to go through the presentation. I added one slide, I think, or two maybe, with some additional thoughts. But yeah, I'll put it on slideshow. I'll share my screen if I am allowed. Let me see. No, I'm not allowed.
Now you are, now you are.
Right. So let me do one more thing here. Yeah. So deep funding in the context of decentralization and diversification, which is also an important theme for this presentation, and developing deep funding as an ecosystem. And I will explain you what I mean with that. Oh, oops. So very quickly, this is an overview historically of how we have grown. Basically, where it comes down to is that we are more or less growing, have doubled each round in size. Depending a little bit if you look at awarded projects, proposals, eligible, or whether you look at eligible proposals or all proposals. I think these are the eligible proposals that I put here. So yeah, I wonder how long we can extend this thing. I don't think we will do that forever, but so the curve will probably go down a little bit. But I think this is something I'm very proud of. And if you would have told me that during the first round, I would have signed off for this immediately. So in terms of quantity, we're doing very well. This is a slide I've used a couple of times before to show people what decentralization means in deep funding. So and where we are. So we've done 4 rounds. We've got in total around 400 proposals submitted in those 4 rounds and 110 of them awarded, which calculates to about 600 milestones. And all these milestones need to be reviewed, approved, and paid. And all of that, plus a lot of other stuff that we're doing, as you all know, is managed by an operational staff of 2. And before you get too angry of me saying that, this is the next slide. So, and our community. So we would never be able to do all of that work with just me and Rafael. Those are the 2 people. We really need our we really need our circles to do all of that work. And due to the time that I had available, I compressed this into one slide. I could make 10 slides out of this, but we started with these 4 circles in the middle: marketing, review, awarded, and focus group. And then we extended to the other ones: event and developer outreach, operations, and analytics circle. Analytics circle still being a one-man show here, Israel. We hope to get you some company at some point, but you're doing great. Thank you. So yeah, the number of people is fluctuating a little bit. I mentioned here more than 30 semi-volunteers. I also mentioned the $10 an hour. That's the default pay, and the average costs per month, and then all the tasks on the right that we're doing. So I don't have to explain that to the present company, but expert reviews, milestone reviews, contracts, automations. Well, let's not forget town halls and events, and let's not forget the first hackathon, which indeed is going much, much, much better than I had expected. So I think that's a great accomplishment, Andrea. Well done. And with the focus group also ideating and guidance, which is really helpful. So let me see. Each time I have to go back. Oh, so let me see. Yeah. Now, the next thing that we are working on currently is that we have all these circles, but we want to avoid that these circles will develop into silos. We want you all to work together, and we want to still be one community, one governance community, if you want. So we are working on collaborating. So for instance, the event circle and developer outreach and marketing could work more closely together, and maybe we'll see that in other areas as well. Another very important tool is the work group. So we had 3 or 4 work groups until now that I think were pretty successful in deep diving in a specific topic with a smaller group of people. But both things need to crystallize, and we can improve them over time. Other things that we're doing to avoid silos in deep funding are the open all hands, which I think are great. Oh, on that topic, I think the presentation that I'm giving right now, normally I would have given first in an open all hands. But as Rafael pointed out to me, the next open all hands next week is with a monthly review. So that's the next thing here on the slide. And we also want to keep that intact. We don't want to deviate from that too much. And Rafael knows me, if I begin talking, it takes way too long usually. So and I don't want to wait 3 weeks with this presentation, because there are also some important insights and outcomes from this. So I decided to do it right away in not the open all hands, but in the public town hall. Which in many cases have a lot of overlap in audience, so it's not such a big deal, but just as a mention. The health yearly reports, we did that once. We have to get accustomed a little bit to the process, but I think in the end, I'm really happy with the results and that we did it. And yeah, if we get in the rhythm of doing that health yearly, that will not only lead to transparency, but it all will also hopefully will lead to understanding between circles, just like the monthly and all updates and the all hands do. And yeah, of course, we have our community website, community.deepfunding.ai. We are continuously working on that. We have a map on that. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's progressing well. But as usual with all these things, there are always more things to wish for than we have time to do. So we have to make choices sometimes. Now, here's some interesting thoughts that might give you some food for thought, I would say. 3 of them. So, one moment. Let me see. Yeah. So what I have explained, well, actually, I didn't explain that to you. I did explain that in the presentation itself. So let's go back. This slide. So at some point, Rafael and me, like 1.5 years ago, when we were growing, when we were going towards round 3, I think, we asked ourselves the question, what will we do with the organization of Deep Funding? We are growing and we need to prepare for further growth. And how are we doing that? One option would have been to extend our internal team. So Rafael, me, and we could easily have extended that to 5, 6, 7 people. And the other option is what we actually did. We said, no, let's try to keep our internal staff as small as possible, but to extend outwards with our organization. And with all you being here, I think we succeeded in that. So we have now those 30, more than 30 people helping us in the community. And that means that, well, the phrase here says it. The best way to create an engaged community is to work with them and not only for them. Instead is not the right word here. I should say not only work for them, but also to work with them, to work with you in creating this program. I firmly believe in that. But it's not always the easiest thing. I think it would have been easier for us to just hire 5 people, give them very clear tasks, and hire more people if we would need it. But I'm very glad that we didn't do that, but we are where we are right now. So creating a large community of freelancers or semi-volunteers has some challenges. But I think we're doing surprisingly well, and there are things that I'm actually absolutely amazed by that I think no way we could have done that better with an internal team. And also in the end, it will give us more flexibility. I mean, we will be more resilient because if you have a team of 5 and 2 of them decided to quit their job and do something else at the same moment, you immediately have a big problem. But if we have a larger community with 30, 50, maybe more people at some point, we'll become more resilient, more flexible, and we also have more diversity in talents of people, and more diversity in ideas and suggestions and such. So it's not the easiest way, but I think when you're aiming for decentralization, you shouldn't go for a large internal operational team to support growth, but you should go for the community itself. The second one is something that I found out when we try to do some decision making. We have this tool called Lumio, but it's not being used that much, and we struggle a little bit in decision making with the whole group. We have some ideas on how to improve that, but what I noticed is that decentralization doesn't mean it's not that when you take out hierarchy, that what is left is decentralization. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, often people have a kind of natural tendency towards hierarchy, like they're all only will react on things that are immediately related to them, or they will easily think, well, somebody else will decide on this, or it's not my job to decide on that. And that's all fine. But it's our task, and it's also my task to keep people engaged and not to gravitate towards that hierarchical system, but trying to keep this decentralized discussion and decision making alive and make it work. So a good example of this was when we discussed in a session like this the new conditions for deep funding round 5. And instead of making this one big thing, we had this poll on, we broke it down in 15 smaller things that we want to change, and then we had this poll. Those who were there will remember it. I think it was a great session. It was both lighthearted and important. And it's not only about the decision, right? What the outcome is. It's also about how you collaborate and how you discuss and talk about things, and then finally come to a conclusion. And whether that conclusion is the same as the outcome of a poll or something is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that we have this opportunity to talk about it together. Third one, and this is a tricky one talking to you here. Decentralization is not always letting the community decide everything. And that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I've made this point before, also in sessions like this. If you let the community decide everything, you might be optimizing for the wrong community. So as much as I love you all, each of you individually, I do hope that 2 years from now, our community will be much bigger than the people we have right now. And I don't want to optimize just for the people who are here. I also want to optimize for that future community. So that means that there is sometimes a balance in the thing that we're looking for, and what things would be proper to have the community decide for in several ways, and what things we just need to steer towards a future where we can further decentralize all decisions with that wider community that we have. For instance, maybe in a year, also because of those RFPs, we'll have more AI researchers in our community, where now it's more development teams. That might give a difference. And there are some other things, actually, that will bring me to our next slide. So if I'm saying we should not optimize, we should be careful. We should be aware that if we have the current community decide on everything, we are optimizing for a specific group of people, our current community. Then the next question would be, but who will be our future community, and who is that, our community? What is that? And then there are a number of slides, and now I'm starting to talk about diversification. So it's not just decentralization, but also diversification, which go hand in hand. Some time ago, a couple of months ago, I wrote a blog on what I called the funding trilemma. I talked about it a little bit before. And I could easily fill a number of slides, but also for the purpose of this presentation, I kept it really short. So you could optimize for either decentralization of the processes and the inclusion of the community in decision making, or you can optimize for the highest quality outcomes, or you can optimize for a process with as little as friction as possible and with maximum freedom. All these things you can optimize for, but it's very hard to have one funding methodology that is optimal for all three of them. And the solution to this dilemma is at least the solution in this stage of our life cycle that I'm aiming for right now is diversification. So I think our deep funding rounds, as we know them today, are great for decentralization. Anybody can offer anything as their proposal. We have the whole community voting on the processes. And we have involvement of the community in between those things. However, it's sometimes a little bit of a drag. If I talk to people, and they ask me how long will it be, and from submitting a proposal to getting a decision on being funded, and then I say, well, about 2 months, and they say, what? 2 months? That's ages in crypto and AI. And also it goes with some hurdles, right? You have to do some things and be responsive, etc. So it's not for everyone. Then we came up with RFPs, which is a great addition, and I think they must cater for high quality, because if the proposals that will come up for an RFP are not high enough quality, we will simply not select anyone. No one will be awarded, or we will extend the RFP or whatever. So they should deliver high quality. We also, or the internal SingularityNET team, defined those RFPs and the conditions of those RFPs. So they're really optimized for quality, I would say. But they don't give that much freedom, because you can only submit to existing RFPs and there's no place for your own idea. So here comes a new thing, which is still, if you ask me today, 6 months out or something, we need to start working on that. And we have some other things on the pipeline first, but we are ideating currently about something which would be open challenges, which would be a kind of deep funding round where you could propose anything, but there will be a system of selecting the best ones. And the way I'd like to frame this would be for exceptional projects that are really that good that we want to fund them immediately without asking them to wait for another half year till the next deep funding round begins, or without asking them to go through all these hurdles. Because if you're really a top tier team and you have a brilliant idea, then probably you have 10 options to get funded, and you won't choose deep funding route, and can guarantee you that. So, but there are some system behind that for making those decisions. I think we probably need another separate session to talk about that. In my mind, it's already quite clear, but we might still change that a little bit. So if you want to ask questions about that after this talk, feel free, but we should dive into that a little bit later. So this sheet is about diversification of our funding methods. We also have the RFP creation flow, which is something we will focus on next. Okay. Why doesn't it let me? Okay. Let me see. Yeah. So the next thing we can diversify are our communities. And now it starts to becoming really interesting. Rafael here is creating an RFP we originally thought about it, and then that idea is already half a year old or something, that we would like to have more town halls, and we want to have regional town halls. So we have some success with the Latin town halls, and even in 2 languages, Portuguese and Spanish. So that's great. We figured, well, if you look at the map, then the most simple thing to do is we need something in Africa, we need something in Asia. But then how do you do that? Africa is really a big continent, and you don't know how many languages they speak there. So it would be very hard to have one town hall for Africa. Same for Asia. In that respect, Latin America is a little bit easier. So yeah, why would we need to have those town halls circle around regions? We could have them circle around language. That might already make more sense. Or culture or whatever might also make sense. But could also be demographics or domain purpose. Not sure what the next slide will show, but yeah. So instead of going for African town hall, Asian town hall, etc., we could go for town halls or community hubs, as we might be calling them, around a certain purpose. So yeah, we might still have that Asian one, we might still have that African one, but on top of that, we could have a community hub around sustainability, or about women in AI, or ethics, or robotics, or DeFi, or whatever you want. And that would diversify our community. So instead of one community, we could have 10 or 20 or 50 communities in due time that would all be very engaged and interested because they share something, they share a sense of purpose. So yeah, I really like that idea. But where do we go from here? And this is what I called in the title the next bold move, because this would really, really, really be a jump in deep funding from where we are right now. So if we have all these, if we would be able to create all these community hubs, how about if we would allocate some of our funding to the successful hubs and say, well, maybe you can make some RFPs of your own, or you can organize a deep funding pool of your own and make sure that you get enough high quality proposals in that pool. Or the ultimate would be, why, dear sustainability community hub, why don't you organize a whole round by yourself? And we can allocate some funding from the deep funding treasury with particular checks and balances, but you can organize the whole thing. And then ultimately, well, I entered these slates later, but ultimately that could bring us into a calendar of deep funding that would be much more interesting than today, with multiple rounds, maybe overlapping rounds on multiple topics, with RFPs coming in, with pools, etc. This is a long-term vision. This is not something that will happen next year. This will, I would say, well, expectations, right? You never know. Some things go much faster, some things go much slower than you expect. But I would say 2 years would be a reasonable timeline to get started on this. And there are steps in between. So we can work on that with some smaller steps. There's one other benefit that this would have, and I'll explain you that in the next few slides. So we're working, Rafael's working, the event circle is working on an RFP for these hubs, and we're now extending it, at least that's my idea, Rafael, to purpose-based hubs. And that means that at some point we could, if they are successful and they've shown their value, we need to think about the exact process there. We could say to a hub, here is 100K or 200K, and you can use it to either for a number of RFPs or for a round or a pool or whatever. If we do that, they would still need to adhere to the current conditions, meaning whatever they do and whatever proposals they will bring in will need to work within the restriction that they need to help the AI platform grow or help OpenCog Hyperon grow. That money will still be going to the same purpose with the same conditions, only organized by different people. However, imagine you are a hub on robotics or on let's say you are a hub on sustainability. And maybe you have done a round on AI services around sustainability on our platform, whatever. And then you have the idea that you want to do something else. Create 1,000 houses with solar panels in Africa or windmills or whatever. Something physical, something at least that is not directly integrated with our platform. Then you wouldn't be able to use the deep funding treasury. However, you would be able to go to other funding sources, ask them to fund you for your goal, And if your project is aligned with the mission and vision and the ideals of deep funding, you could use that third-party funding to organize your own round or RFP, etc., on our deep funding platform. So what this will lead to is not only a much more interesting roadmap, but also a diversification of funding. So we started with diversification of funding methods. Then we talked about diversification of communities. And now we see the opportunity maybe also to have diverse funding streams. And all of that together would make deep funding from what it is right now, an outlet, an organizational method for the deep funding treasury, into a much wider platform for funding, for funding beneficial initiatives, basically. Any questions so far? Let's just give a brief pause here. Any questions so far? By the way, I'm really happy, Rafael and Juan Pablo and Andrea, to have you on camera, because all the rest is not, and I have no idea what the reactions of the rest of the rooms are. So thank you, and shame on all of you just getting here. So any question? Then I'll just continue. I'll take a sip of tea. So this is an extra slide. I didn't put that in yet in the meeting because I didn't have too much time, and also because I think this might be more interesting to you than the wider audience that I had in Bangkok. So just to give you a brief high-level overview on what is on our roadmap, and then I'm talking about the development roadmap. So this presentation is about operations, about decentralization. I do want to make a call out to our fantastic WordPress team, also led by Greg Kubler, our UX lead. They've made all of this possible. Beginning of this year, we transitioned from Sway. At the beginning of the year, we were still on Sway, and we did our first round 4B and then round 4 on our new portal, and that worked pretty amazingly good. Not perfect, but pretty good. And because we did that transition, we were able, 6 months later or so, to have this whole new RFP flow, which we are now starting to benefit from, all because we have our own portal. So I'm extremely happy with the team. We have now, on just the deep funding side, only 2 WordPress developers and 1 part-time UXer. You have another WordPress developer on. We might be welcoming a 3rd one. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we have 1 person now on our community website. We might, in the light of all the things we want to do, we might need to extend that even more. But I'm extremely happy and proud of what they've done, and I'm also very proud of the platform itself, I must say. So kudos to the team. So what do we need to do? Well, one thing that I've been trying to push for months and months now is that we need to have better content and guides, but we need to have some organizational changes as well. So we had this job opening. We're recruiting people. We're still in that process. It got delayed a little bit also due to our Bangkok event. If anybody here submitted your application to one of the roles, we need to make this happen. Don't worry, we haven't contacted anybody yet, but we will do that very soon, and then we'll schedule some meetings, probably some meetings with more people there, which will extend our reach and our capabilities in content and marketing and all that even more. And yeah, will also enable us to be more active on the content front. So that's one thing. But a little bit of a strange animal in this list. The other things are more functionally related. So one thing I would like to do is create theme pages, I think, for RFPs. So now we have a bunch of RFPs, 15 of them. But if there are 100 RFPs, we would like to organize them a little bit better. So um, we could have OpenCog Hyperon RFPs as a separate category, or we could have platform-related RFPs, or we could have community-driven RFPs as a separate thing. And there are more options there. And I would like to bundle those on a separate landing page, if you will, that will give some more context about that topic, and that will also I see there are still people entering, but like me last time, I think that is a mix-up with summer and winter time. So it will give us these theme pages will give us some option to give some more context, and also show all the RFPs that belong to that specific teams, both past RFPs with results and with selected proposals, and active RFPs. That's the idea, but I'm still waiting for the UX to happen. By the way, also on that area, Greg, our lead UXer, has put a lot of time in the ASI Create workflow. There are a lot of screens related there. And that also pushed back a little bit of the work that we wanted to do. Although I must say our development team also is still pretty busy on the things that we're pushing out. So not sure how much of a bottleneck that really was. The RFP create flow. So did I put that slide in? Let me just check. No, I didn't put that in. So we want to give the community also the opportunity to create RFPs. Current RFPs are created by SingularityNET. We might have other partner RFPs, but we also want to enforce the community, empower the community, you to make your own RFPs. So it will start with ideation, creating good ideas. Then we'll have a flow on the creation of the RFPs, and then we'll submit those RFPs. Little bit will go too far to go too deep into that, but that would be the next step. I think these things are roughly organized time-wise, but not completely. And we need to figure out which of these things we can do in parallel. Then after that, I think I will work on the open challenges. So that will be more like a combination of a Shark Tank approach and a VC approach, but more on that later. That I think is probably still 6 months out or something. Then, yeah, if you want to go to what I explained, if we really want to diversify our communities and diversify our deep funding calendar and want to enable even at some point overlapping rounds, yeah, we need to do some really serious work on our platform. That is not what the platform was designed for. It's a new thing. So that requires probably some refactoring and some good architecture to enable that. Before we're going there, we'll probably do things sequentially and maybe have a new round around different communities with different pools, or just add pools in around or hosted by communities in existing rounds, something like that. So it's not. We can still do whatever we want with the tools that we have, but at some point we probably need to make this more flexible. Then 2 other points, we are working on the community website. One thing we'll be working on next is a single sign-on with deep funding. So, and that will also open up other opportunities. What we want to do on the community website is create a space for work groups. And what we want to do there is maybe also create a space for these community hubs if we are successful in creating them. So they have a space where they can present themselves, and well, maybe we'll even integrate with Mattermost or some other thing. We could do that through a single sign-on as well. So a lot of opportunities there as well. Apart even from making a site for the ambassadors and making a site for decentralization based on the same feature stack, so we can have a unified agenda for all of these things. There are also some backend improvements. So yeah, Roho showed me the latest and greatest on operations.deepfunding.ai, which is exactly that. Just great. I'm very happy. And there are some new opportunities that we will have in the near future on working with smart contracts, maybe working with some stable coins in the treasury of Deep Funding, which is something I've been asking for years, but due to legal reasons might now be possible, which is another reason for creating some smart contracts in our backend process. Yes, other big announcement. We and Rafael, me, Esther, and I'm talking about Rafael Cardoso now, we were in the work group for the jobs and collaboration portal. And we also published a survey on that portal. And we presented some screens that we made that we thought would what such a portal should bring and what it should look like. Yeah, I always refer to it as the LinkedIn for ASI. It's not just about jobs, but it's also about collaboration and sharing news and all of that. So one option was to have that portal as a separate thing, a little bit similar as the community website. And then we thought, if we make it separate, shouldn't we make it bigger? Shouldn't we build it from the ground up? If we really believe we want to make a network, a jobs and collaboration network related to ASI, maybe we should build it from the ground up in a very solid and reliable and performant way. So yeah, we did that. And if you want to go there, it will take significant effort and attention and money to build that. So we did some investigations. Now, the survey, I don't have that screen in this. Yeah, I had another one specifically on this topic. I could have, if you want, I can still show them. But the survey came out with, we had 30 results, which I'm told was not a bad thing. And generally, almost all were favorably inclined. And we had some different options there. So I also pitched it a couple of days ago in Bangkok to our internal team. But basically, the simple result is that it was shut down. And the reason it was shut down is not that people didn't like the idea or didn't think it was useful or needed. They were afraid it would take too much attention, too much focus away from other things, and it would be too much work. So one feedback I got is maybe we should do this on top of an existing platform and build something there. Another thing was, yeah, we can build it, but also you have to think about all the maintenance and management we will have on it afterwards, which I think is a very valid point that, to be honest, I didn't give too much attention. Now, does that make me sad or not? I would say not at all. It makes my life a little bit easier, not having to worry about that big new great platform. And we will still be doing it, but we will be doing it as a feature of Deep Funding. So what we had in that portal idea was have much richer profile pages. And we will do that on Deep Funding and make them searchable, for instance, and make them connected to our reputation portal. Another thing is we will have some kind of global feed where we can share all announcements on new RFPs and completed projects and new rounds and also awarded teams, and you might be able to share some news. And we will still do that, but as part of Deep Funding. And that jobs and tasks thing, I already did this in round 1 or 2 when we were on Sway and tried that, but the feature set wasn't good enough and the community may not have been big enough. But It's very likely that we will do something in that direction, but then within the context of deep funding. Now, the idea I had on that new platform was the same. We would still do those things on deep funding, but in parallel, we will build that big and sturdy platform. So if we would get too big in that area, we could migrate to that platform. Now that is off. So we will continue to do all those things in the context of deep funding, whether we will have a third website, something like the developers.deepfunding.ai or not is remains to be seen. Might also combine it more on our core Deep Funding AI platform. I will discuss that with the team. But yeah, we'll just have to make it as sturdy as possible and make sure that it will enable that the way we do it will enable us to grow. So my vision for so with this thing as a separate solution being shut down, actually makes deep funding even bigger, because what I see in the future of deep funding is becoming a portal for different communities and different funding sources. And on top of that portal, we will try to build the collaboration tools that we need, including some job listing that we might connect to third-party job portals, as we wanted to do in the first place. So yeah, I'm very bullish, as they say, on the future of deep funding. Also, what I got from feedback and maybe some soft interest that needs to crystallize still on people who would also like to do things on the deep funding platform. Yeah, I think that the potential is absolutely stunning. So, oh yeah, here on the right, we have also been, or we are working on some more lighter changes that are actually quite nice. One of them is global search. So this might be the third WordPress developer on the team. That is the person who also created the new SingularityNET website, Mohammed. He is now creating a global search for deep funding. So you can type any keyword and you can search blogs and proposals and awarded projects all from one search window. So that will be very helpful. Another thing, and I created a small screenshot here, that we will be able to filter both awarded projects and proposals with a mechanism that you see in a lot of e-commerce websites. So you can filter on multiple things. So you can say, give me from round four this pool, and then only this category projects, for instance. This is just a small screenshot. I hope we will be seeing that maybe as early as next week already, or the week after being pushed out. So well in time for deep funding round 5. Let's see, what else did I have here? Yeah, I'm rounding off right now. So this was basically the conclusion. Where are we in decentralization in deep funding? I think we're doing a lot of things. We're well on our way. We're far from perfect, but we're getting there. So we're doing decentralized voting. We could use more voters, to be honest, but we are trying to decentralize our governance. We're working on how we can involve more people in the decision process, what would be the best way. We have definitely decentralized our operation. I think that's the real success story of deep funding so far. And then diversification. We are on our way to diversify our funding methods, with RFPs now being a thing, community-driven or RFP creation process coming up, and then maybe something that I currently call open challenges following that maybe later next year. Diversified communities. I hope we will pull that off. It's not a given yet. We need to finalize the RFP. I hope we can push that out in the next few weeks, maybe days, but let's say next few weeks. And then we'll see whether that will be successful. We can organize people around a certain topic and activate them. I hope we will. And if we will be able to do that, I'm pretty sure that at some point we'll also reach the situation where we have diversified funding streams. Literally, we already have that a little bit with our joint partner RFP that we do together with Catalyst. So we get a little bit of funding from Catalyst coming in there already. Last screen. And this is, I thought a little bit about decentralization and what we want to achieve there. And I think the way we're trying to do things is we're growing things. It's not like we're creating a blueprint and then all the details and then we're pushing it out and we're done. I think what we're doing with deep funding, we're very experimental and we take it step by step. It's a little bit like design thinking, if you know that paradigm. We try something, if it works, we continue, and if not, we try something else. So it's very hard to look far into the future, but you can always look at the next step. And in that way, I also compare it a little bit to developing an ecosystem. If you have some barren land and you want to create an ecosystem out of that, you can't plan that from scratch, but you have to go with what nature offers you. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a plan. You should have a plan, you should work on that, but you should also react on what you see and work with what you see. So, well, a good example actually is the development outreach circle. I didn't plan for that. But it occurred, it emerged by the lead of Ubio and all the other people in the circle. And then when you see something happen, yeah, you should embrace it and nurture it and try to make it big, which is what you do with developing an ecosystem. Also, what the goal is of decentralization. So decentralization, in my opinion, should offer a framework for fairness and shared responsibility. I think that's very important, but it's not the goal. It's a means to an end. The goal would be to empower all of you, every individual, with the agency and freedom to involve in your unique way in relation to with others. So I think in the end, what is important in deep funding is agency, is giving everybody the agency and the empowerment and the freedom to do what you want to do in some connection with other people. So yeah, if we could create diversity like that, and if we could make it networked diversity, so we're not all silos, but there are all kinds of cross sections between people and teams working in that environment, I think that is an important precondition for resilience. I think that way, if we manage to create that kind of environment, we will be extremely resilient, just like a mature ecosystem is much more resilient to pests and dryness and wetness and all of that things than some kind of monoculture. Yeah, I think that's it. So, any questions or any things you would like me to dive in deeper?
While you guys are thinking about questions, we do have a remark from Ken in the comments. So you want me to read it, Jan, or?
Yeah, I don't have my comments window up and I'm notorious
Right.
bad in multitasking, so please do.
With regards to the diversification, wouldn't it need an enormous amount of oversight to avoid the possibility of veering off the initial roadmap of deep funding as it progresses?
There needs to be some oversight, but I would try to minimize it. So we need to have a good framework that ensures that people stay within the mission and vision and guidelines that deep funding puts out. I had the same discussion with the focus group, and I got the question, aren't you afraid that one of these, if I'm paraphrasing right now, but that one of these community hubs could derail a little bit, that maybe some people would become all powerful in such a hub and decide everything? And my direct answer was, well, if we have 50 community hubs and one of them would derail, there would be a much better situation than I only have one community which might still derail as a whole. So that diversification, and that is what I mean with resilience. So in that diversification, not everything will go perfect. I'm pretty sure it won't. But some hubs will be more successful than others, and some will develop more positively than others. And what we need to do as a kind of overarching framework is to ensure that we feed the ones that are doing well and that we cut off the ones that are not doing so well. And by that way, nurturing the ones that are delivering the fruits that we want them to deliver. And if you think about that a little bit, it might be, well, each hub at some point might create their own circles. And it might be that our circle organization will become more like a circle of circles and more like a coaching, like the event circle would be a very good idea. Instead of just instead of organizing the current town halls and all hands and that sort of things. At some point, each of these communities will be organizing all hands and town halls and whatnot. And then the role of the current deep funding circle will become more diverse and will change a bit, and they will be connecting different hubs to each other and stimulating knowledge transfer and coaching new hubs in how to do things and think about the tooling that would be sufficient, would be the right tooling for all of these, etc., etc. So it is a different way of thinking. But I'd rather think of it of giving also these community hubs agency and empower them to do all kinds of things than think of it as how can we control them and restrict them.
All right.
I have the meeting chat up, but I'll leave you do the leading, Rafael.
What? Sorry?
I have the meeting chat up, so I see some other questions.
Okay.
I haven't read them yet, but I'll leave you to that.
All right. So we have Ari here. By the way, bye, Ari. He's leaving, but he says he's very
Oh,
excited overall on RFPs and ups. Yeah, and he enjoyed the insights into the future. And then we have Abdul Haman, which has a question about the possible requirements for establishing a up, and also if it has not yet been thought out, it's fine. I'm not sure about this last one, but I understood the first.
yeah. So maybe, Rafael, you are the best one to answer this, but I'm also happy to have a stab at that. But you want me, or would you like to answer this one? Because you have been working on an RFP for this already. Of course, these latest ideas of mine disrupt some things again a little bit, so we need to adapt that somehow. So, for instance, if we actually want to give the community hubs allocation over part of the treasury to use in the way that it is meant to use, yeah, that will give some more requirements, but. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think as a first step, probably we need to see how the community apps function in terms of building a community first. And once they run and they have a community and they show some liveliness, then maybe consider that second stage of the funding process and decentralizing that. I think that's also a good requirement as a way for the team to show a little bit to work, right? But in terms of requirements, well, there'll be a whole RFP out There will be also like just a document with how it will work, like a framework, just to make the process simple and easy. But basically, you'll be able to, within the RFP and the limitations and the funding we have available, you'll be able to create your own proposal of what you think is the best strategy to grow the community up. The requirements are mostly, there will be some minimum requirements that are mostly related to growing the community, related to also having some events where you actually connect with the community and do things with the community. But besides that, it will be pretty open and it will be decided on each level with each team. So that you can also adapt what you're doing to your topic, to your binding topic. Yeah. So you have to select a binding topic, whether it is a region, a language, sustainability, or any kind of initiative you like, and just put a strategy out there on how you can will grow that community. What's your experience with communities, etc. And then you'll be selected. The best RFPs will be selected. I think that's a good summary, but you'll have more information in the RFP itself. Jan, do you want to add anything? I guess the IO wants to add something, or maybe
Yeah,
has a
so,
question.
so there will be some common requirements, some KPIs that we will be measuring to see who
Yeah,
is successful and not. And we want these new community hubs to be very transparent in what they're doing and what they're achieving. We want to have what we want to have central is this sound may be a little bit awkward. Central control of the tools. And if you have a decentralized community, we want to make sure that we can also always access that community. So suppose that you have created a community hub around a certain topic, and that after half a year, the person that is in charge of that, or the 2 or 3 people that are leading that, for some reason say, well, we want to do other things with our life, then we want to be able to continue that same community. So in that sense, the community is not owned by the people that are leading that. I think it's still a community that is financed by deep funding. And we should also be able to continue that initiative if the original initiators would leave. So those are some important things, and yeah, we'll fine tune and make very clear the conditions that we have. And apart from that, it will also be a learning experience, right? We will probably start with a handful of communities, see what happens, and learn from that, and then take that learning into the creation of even more new communities. Ayo.
All right. Thank you, Ian. That was a lot, and I'm really happy that this happened. So while you were speaking, I mean, there's a question in the chat, but I will just go to the one that I didn't complete. And because I mean, when we talk about having to do all of this, diversifying, creating hubs, and all of this, I think that it would be a good idea to see how our investment in the reputation systems plays into this. I think one of the things that would be of the maybe biggest concern is will the community make good decisions? Will the people who get to decide have the interest of deep funding at heart? And so how do you do this? How do you guarantee this without having to hover on everybody's shoulder? What are you doing? Who are you? When did you join? What do you have in mind? So I was just wondering if we are considering having what we have put together so far in the reputation system merge into all of this. Because if we are able to pull this, I think it solves maybe a lot of questions that or fears that may come up with, oh, are we not spreading ourselves too thin? are we not going to be derailed? And things like that. So, I mean, so it's just a thought. I'm just wondering if it's something that you have thought about. The other question is right in the chat. You can always respond later. So I don't be the only one talking.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions in one thing, and a lot of perspectives. I hope I remember them and interpret them all correctly, but please interfere if I'm not. So about not spreading ourselves too thin, I think that is a very important remark. We should. Sometimes I feel that we might already be doing that, but actually I hope that by creating these community hubs, we will be. So it would be wrong to do this with the existing community only. The reason for doing this is that we can expand. So people, I can totally imagine that people that are really interested in AI ethics or in robotics or whatever would not come to this town hall because these things are not being discussed. But if we would have a town hall only on these things and then think about and ideate about what we could do on those topics and how we could build solutions on our platform related to those topics, etc., I think you might tap into other communities that way. We're also talking about maybe some relationships with universities that we might tap into. So I think I see this as an opportunity to expand our community quite explosively if we do it right. Regarding reputation system, yeah, the reputation system is important. So we thought about the reputation system related to that social that network or jobs and collaboration platform. But we will continue to implement it, but then in deep funding. So we'll have richer profiles in deep funding showing all your accomplishments, but you'll also be able to add other data about your expertise and experience there. And that will be input for the reputation system. And we will also have output of the reputation system in terms of you might be a top contributor, or you might be an expert in some domain or something, which might be coming out of that reputation system. And yeah, I can imagine the reputation system might also be instrumental in somehow assessing the quality of the circles and the people that are working in the circles. But that's something we need to find out. One thing that I gave some thoughts. So one concern, if we are doing this with this community hub, would be, aren't we growing too fast? And can we work? Can we do everything that we need to do? And especially in terms of assessing proposals, also during rounds. Here, I think that these hubs could also be instrumental in the sense that they could also deliver new community experts. We might have that as a condition that before getting funds allocated to do your own round, you first need to deliver, if you want, a number of community experts to our pool that have done a certain amount of work in a good way before you get to the stage that you can organize your own round. That could be one. Another option would be that suppose we would have two universities in two pools. Not sure if that's the best example, but we could have them assess each other's work, for instance. So there are some opportunities there as well. And I'm also thinking about, so we need to make sure that a community hub is not created or founded with the goal of getting money for their own purposes and their own projects. So we probably also need to have some pool of community experts that will do the first check and check if whatever proposal that is being presented for voting in some way will have at least a minimum of quality. And if all proposals that are coming out of these hubs will have a decent quality, yeah, then all other things are of lesser concern. So yeah, we need to find out a way of how we are. So suppose we have 10 community hubs and they're all doing good work. Some are a little bit better than others, some are a little bit bigger than others. We need to find ways on how we will reward these hubs with a certain allocation of our treasury to create their initiatives. And that requires some further thinking. We're not there yet, and it will be a while until we are there yet. But I'm sure we can create KPIs and we can create some kind of assessment mechanisms that periodically will allow us to allocate. Hubs could perhaps give us our plans, what they want to do in terms of RFPs and rounds and whatnot, and require a budget for that. And then we'll get all the budget from all the community hubs, and we'll have their results. What was their success rate in past rounds and RFPs, etc. So there's a lot of data to go on. So not sure if Israel is still here, but the data circle might need to expand for those kind of things as well. We have a lot of data that we can leverage at that point to make sure that the funding is allocated correctly. And I don't expect it to be perfect. I think we'll make some mistakes. I think maybe some money might land on the wrong places, but then again, there's no guarantee that a centralized system would work better in that way. And at least we have a way to assess it and reward the hubs that are doing that deliver the best results and the best outcomes.
Does that answer all your questions, Aya?
Yes, yes, it did. I'm sorry, Jan, that the question was a lot.
No,
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
good, Aya. That's good, Aya. If you have more questions, you should ask them. Now is the right time, I think.
Yeah, and to be honest, some of these ideas that I presented here and I presented the last few days are pretty new, right? It's not like I've thought about this for half a year. It's emerging. This whole idea with purpose-based hubs, maybe a few weeks old and or a little bit older, and then having them organize their own rounds is pretty young idea. So don't expect this to be completely crystallized, etc. Which is also one of the reasons why I said at some point during this presentation, maybe it would be a better fit for an all hands being more internally directed and asking all of your input in whether this is a good direction and what would be a good idea to do this. But yeah, at the end of the day, if I try to imagine what deep funding could look like in 2 or maybe 3 years, I don't know, and it would be this platform for funding, and we would have thriving communities around important topics, and they would be self-empowered to organize things, and we would have a mechanism to distribute the treasury that we have in a meaningful way to make sure that it is most effective. Yeah, I would say, what's not to like?
True. True.
Well, I do have a simple question, not related to this decentralization, but more related to the community RFPs. So, for example, we are creating a process for the community to create the RFPs that they think is important, and that so I imagine I create an RFP, I put it out, then it goes is this voted by the community, and if approved, it becomes an RFP and people can propose? Or how will that process work? Are we still keeping that initial idea, or are we changing it?
That's a topic in itself. It's past time, right? So be careful what you ask for. I have no problem diving into this a little bit. I'll try to give you a brief overview, okay? And then it's up to you to decide whether you want to dive further. So the idea is that anyone can post an idea. That's where it starts, with an idea. And then there are two ways to go further. One way could be that the person that creates the idea, especially if it's a simple idea or it would be a simple RFP, we could reward that person and say, okay, great idea, create an RFP out of it. By the way, the way we're thinking right now is we will ask the community for input, so upvote or downvote ideas or whatever, so that we have some community advice there, what is most appreciated. However, the decision process will be done within the circles, and we'll have some people there. How we do that exactly needs to crystallize a little bit, but because we want to ensure, so a small RFP, if we give 5K for an RFP, might lead to RFP creation, might lead to an actual RFP where we need to allocate 300K for the proposal. So we have to be very careful in things that we approve, because it's the whole pipeline that we need to look at. And for instance, we need to make sure that there are no duplicate RFPs being created. And we need to ensure that the RFPs that are, if so, our resources are limited, right? Also for rewarding, putting out rewards for RFPs. So we need to make sure that the RFPs that are being created are the ones that are really urgent and important. So there will be a kind of representative decision-making process there. I will take part in that as main responsible person in the end to allocate amounts to these RFPs. We have to look at how well it fits to the deep funding or SingularityNET technology stack, for instance. And we need to think about things like ethics and inclusion and those perspectives. So yeah, there will be roles for different people in the all circles to help us, and maybe everybody to help us decide on that. Another route is that if you make a very big RFP that requires a lot of work in writing the RFP, we'll make a competition out of that. So we can say, hey, here's 30K for an RFP, but it needs to include a full architecture, all the feature requirements. It needs to have some marketing research, whatever. And then we can ask, because it's an important topic. For instance, I can think right now what would be a way, an RFP that would go that route would be if we want to combine identification DID with Vault or wallet linking tool. That would probably be a rather big RFP, because I would like you to investigate what DIDs, what identification methods are there, what is the possibility of combining them, how they match Vault, what are the preferred ones and for what reason. So there would need to go a lot of research into writing the RFP. And in that situation, we would say, well, we'll ask a number of teams, any team, to come up with a one-pager, very small one-pager, but just tell us who you are, what your accomplishments are, where you think you're well suited, what you need. So do you need 20K or 30K or whatever to do that? And what are the activities that you want to do? And if we have 5 of such proposals, then we can combine them into one. We can award not only the winning ones, but if the other proposals come with ideas that we are using, we might also give them a smaller reward just for using the information on their one-pager. And then we'll define the conditions for these RFPs. So we'll define ahead of time, if you do this RFP, then you'll get awarded this amount, but only if you complete this, and this component of this RFP successfully. And we will have a dedicated RFP team made up from community experts that have some affinity with the RFP domain that will guide that process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
It's a lot, I know, and I can imagine that all the things that I've been telling tonight, especially some of the things I've told before, so maybe there's a little bit of repetition in the presentation. I can imagine that anybody here that would hear everything for the first time would need to let it sink in a little bit.
Yeah, but I think it was very interesting. So thank you, Jan, for the presentation. And now we have all some time to think about it, right? Reflect and come up with feedback or even better ideas, I guess. Um, does anybody have any questions? Anything you want to say? Any comments? Or should we wrap it up for today? I guess the silence tells us to wrap it up. So thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, Jan. Oh, drink a little bit of tea so you don't lose your voice.
It was my
Yeah.
intention not to do such long presentations anymore, but rather pre-record them and then in a meeting like this have more like an interactive session about it. But yeah, it so happens that we wanted to do this now. I also didn't have too much time. Um, but let me know here or on Telegram or anyone anywhere else on Mattermost whether you appreciated it or not, whether you would prefer to do it differently next time, whether we should cut it up in shorter sections. The problem is we want to move forward, right? So there's a lot of things here we want to get done, and at the same time we want you to be informed so that you can give feedback and maybe steer it in a different direction. So I'm still searching. Yeah, let's put it at that.
Hello, good
Yeah,
evening.
thank you, Ian. I think it was pretty good to keep all of that within the hour. So yeah, thank you.
Anthony, please
Hi,
go
can
ahead.
anyone hear me? Yeah, can I just make a short presentation on my the status of my round four proposal project? Is there still time?
I mean, we're a little bit over the hour, Anthony, but do you think could you make it in the next town hall or wouldn't you be available
Yeah, and
to?
the next town hall is also fine. Yeah,
Okay.
the next town.
Can you can you either book it through the Deep Funding community website? I can send you the link, or you can also reach me in Mattermost and I can show you how to book it if you don't know how to do it.
Okay, then I'll
Do you
reach
have
out to you
Mattermost?
then. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. I do.
Yes, it's a mattermost.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So you already have the contact, Ayo, so you maybe you can reach out.
Yeah, Anthony, I'll reach out to you. So we just
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay,
And
thank you.
thank you as well, Anthony, for coming and for wanting to present. I think that's awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I hope to
thank
see
you.
you. I hope to see you next week. We have monthly updates for all the town halls to see what we have been up to as a overall community and as Deep Funding. So that will be exciting. Wednesday, 2 p.m. UTC, and I hope to see you there. Well, bye bye.